If you're like most entrepreneurs, you've probably felt the frustration of being stuck on the operator's treadmill. Always busy, always working, yet never truly free. It's a cycle that's hard to break, trading your precious time for money, chasing profits, but ultimately feeling chained to the very business you built for freedom. But what if there were another way? Imagine waking up to notifications of sales made overnight, assets generating revenue without your constant oversight, and a business operating smoothly while you enjoy life's finer moments. This isn't a fantasy, it's the strategic reality of passive income. In Easy Money, Passive Income for Beginners, you'll discover exactly how to transition from operator to owner. You'll learn how to build your first passive income stream in as little as 14 to 21 days, following the proven 7-step system used by wealthy entrepreneurs who understand how to create scalable, automated revenue streams. No prior experience? No problem. This book breaks down complex concepts into clear, actionable steps, guiding you from identifying your minimum viable asset to automating your sales processes and beyond. You'll master techniques to reinvest strategically, diversify your income, and build a self-sustaining flywheel that compounds profit and freedom. If you're ready to trade the operator's treadmill for financial freedom and reclaim your time, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Chapter 1: Freedom Shift. Your phone buzzes at 5 a.m. Another client emergency, another weekend sacrificed, another month where you worked harder but earned less per hour than the month before. Sound familiar? You're trapped on the operator's treadmill, selling time instead of building assets, chasing fires instead of creating systems, confusing motion with progress. Every dollar requires your direct involvement. Every vacation threatens your income. Every sick day costs you money. This isn't entrepreneurship, it's an expensive job you happen to own. But here's what the top 1% of solopreneurs know. Passive income isn't a fantasy, it's an operating system, and you're about to learn how to install it. The operator's prison. Let's get brutally honest about where you are right now. You sell time, not assets. Your income has a ceiling, the number of hours you can physically work before your brain turns to mush and your relationships crumble. There's no scale, no compounding. Every month resets to zero, and you start the hustle all over again. Your revenue spikes and crashes like a heart monitor. One algorithm change, one platform policy shift, one economic hiccup, and your income vanishes overnight. You're building on rented land, dependent on forces beyond your control. Worse yet, you have no operating system for leverage, no minimum viable asset that pays while you sleep, no flywheel that turns profits into bigger profits, no automation threshold that frees you from manual delivery. You confuse busyness with progress, effort with results. The math is merciless. If you can't step away for a week without your business collapsing, you don't own a business. You own a job with extra steps. The compound effect of staying stuck. Here's what happens if you don't break free from the operator's treadmill. Chronic overwork becomes your new normal. You plateau despite working harder. Decision fatigue destroys your judgment. Your margins shrink because you're too tired to think strategically. You become the bottleneck in your own business. Competitors with leverage systems will leapfrog you. While you're grinding 60-hour weeks, they're building assets that work 24/7. They buy attention while you beg for it. Your pricing power erodes as they scale faster and cheaper. Platform dependence becomes platform prison. Algorithm changes nuke your traffic overnight. Policy shifts lock you out of your own audience. You wake up one morning to discover your primary income source has vanished, and there's nothing you can do about it. The brutal truth? In 5 years, you'll either be free or you'll be further behind. There's no middle ground. The freedom alternative. But here's what's possible when you shift from operator to owner. A portfolio that pays daily. Small digital assets stack into predictable monthly cash. Subscriptions stabilize your base. Royalties create spikes. Dividends drip steadily in the background. Compounding turns trickles into streams, streams into rivers. Calendar sovereignty. Deep work blocks appear where chaos used to live. Urgent fires fade into manageable maintenance. Weekly strategic reviews replace daily firefighting. You design your days instead of reacting to them. Exponential optionality. Reinvested profits fund bigger bets. New assets launch faster with less effort. Partnerships and licensing opportunities come to you. Exit options multiply. Your downside shrinks while your upside explodes. Warren Buffett proved this decades ago. He reinvested returns relentlessly, let compounding do the heavy lifting, and built a dividend machine that pays him billions annually with minimal daily involvement. George Lucas retained Star Wars merchandising rights and earned more from royalties than from the original films. J.K. Rowling created one magical world and licensed it across books, films, parks, and games for decades of passive cash flow. The pattern is clear. Build once, sell forever. Your 30-day transformation. Here's what you'll achieve in your first pass through this system. Ship one MVA within 14 to 21 days. Pick one pain, one promise, one deliverable. Keep margins at 70% or higher by cutting non-essentials. Publish publicly and charge real money. No more perfectionism paralysis. Connect a simple evergreen funnel. Lead magnet captures emails. Welcome sequence builds trust. Core offer converts automatically. Payments process while you sleep. Delivery happens without your involvement. Earn your first automated dollars. One sale proves the machine works. Reinvest a fixed percentage the same day. Document lessons and iterate fast. The first dollar is the hardest. The next 100 are inevitable. This isn't theory. It's a battle-tested sequence that works. The 7-move system. Here's your roadmap to freedom. Move 1. Niche and promise clarity. Define who you serve and what outcome you deliver. Specificity beats generality every time. Move 2. Build the MVA. Create the minimum asset that reliably throws off cash. Value density beats feature count. Move 3. Attach distribution. Own your email list. Choose one primary channel. Depth compounds, breadth diffuses. Move 4. Hit the automation threshold. Automate payments, delivery, and follow-ups. If it can't run without you, it's not passive. Move 5. Install the flywheel. Set a fixed reinvestment rate. Profits fund promotion. Promotion grows audience. Audience buys assets. Assets increase profits. Repeat. Move 6. Diversify streams. Add low correlation income sources. Subscriptions for stability. Royalties for spikes. Dividends for calm. Move 7. Maintenance cadence. Quarterly refreshes keep winners winning. Monthly checks catch problems early. Annual reviews guide strategy. Why this order matters. Asset before audience scale. Without a sellable asset, traffic leaks value. Offer clarity tightens messaging and targeting. Early sales inform product market fit. Build what sells, not what sounds clever. Automation before amplification. Manual delivery doesn't scale and breaks trust. Autopilot frees focus for growth. Support burden stays predictable. Scale the system, not the chaos. Reinvestment before diversification. One winner compounded beats 5-week streams. Cash funds options. Options fund freedom. Quarterly cadence prevents shiny object syndrome. The sequence isn't arbitrary. It's optimized for speed, sustainability, and sanity. Winners versus losers, the mindset split. Winners ship fast and perfect later. They track unit economics, not vanity metrics. They play long games and tolerate boredom. They understand that consistency beats intensity. Losers chase hacks and abandon systems. They overbuild and never launch. They confuse effort with leverage. They mistake motion for progress. MrBeast exemplifies the winner's mindset. He reinvests radically into content creation. His video library compounds views and revenue over time. Each piece of content funds the next, creating an unstoppable flywheel. He's built a content empire through systematic reinvestment, not heroic spurts. The difference isn't talent, it's approach. The leverage laws. Passive income is time arbitrage. You decouple earnings from hours by creating assets with asymmetric upside, limited downside, uncapped digital returns. Your cash flow scales through compounding loops where profits reinvest into bigger profits. The math favors models with low marginal cost and high replication potential. Digital products cost almost nothing to deliver to the 100th customer. Email lists scale without proportional effort increases. Automated systems work 24/7 without overtime pay. This isn't about working less, it's about working differently. Front-load the effort, backload the rewards. Your first steps start now. The gap between knowing and doing is where dreams die. You can read every book, watch every course, attend every seminar, but nothing changes until you ship. Here's your 72-hour sprint. Session 1, 90 minutes. Pick your niche and promise. Outline your MVA using the Promise Proof Path framework. One pain, one solution, one price. Session 2, 90 minutes. Build version 1. Set up payments and delivery. Keep it simple. Ship it ugly. Session 3, 90 minutes. Write your 3-email welcome sequence. Publish your MVA. Announce it to your existing network. No excuses, no delays, no perfectionism. The compound effect starts with the first dollar, not the perfect dollar. What awaits in the shadows? You now understand the operator's prison and the owner's freedom. You've seen the 7-move system that transforms time sellers into asset builders. You know the sequence, the mindset, and the first steps. But knowing the map isn't the same as walking the territory. In the next chapter, we'll dive deep into the fundamental force that makes passive income possible: leverage. You'll discover the hidden laws that separate the 1% from the 99% and learn to classify every activity on the semi-passive continuum. Because without leverage, passive income is just a pretty lie that keeps you trapped in the operator's chair. The revolution starts with understanding why some people's efforts multiply while others' efforts merely add up. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Leverage Laws. 2 entrepreneurs sit in identical coffee shops, typing on identical laptops, working identical hours. One earns $50,000 a year. The other earns $500,000. Same effort, same time, 10 times the output. What's the difference? The first entrepreneur trades time for money, hour for hour, task for task, client for client. The second has discovered something far more powerful: the hidden laws that govern leverage. Laws that can multiply your output without multiplying your input. Laws that turn 1 hour of work into 1,000 hours of results. These aren't mystical secrets or Silicon Valley fairy tales. They're mathematical realities that separate the 1% from the 99%. And once you understand them, you'll never look at work the same way again. The multiplication principle. Here's what most people get wrong about passive income. They think it means doing nothing. That's not passive, that's lazy. True passive income is about front-loading massive effort to create assets that multiply your impact exponentially. Think about it this way. When you write a custom proposal for a client, you get paid once. When you create a template that solves the same problem, you can sell it 1,000 times. Same knowledge, same expertise, completely different leverage. The math is brutal in its simplicity. Without leverage, you're trapped in linear growth. More hours equals more money, but there's a ceiling. Your energy depletes. Your creativity suffers. Burnout becomes inevitable because consistency, the lifeblood of compounding, dies under the weight of endless manual effort. But with leverage, 1 day of focused work can pay you for years. Build a digital course once, and it sells while you sleep. Create a software tool, and it serves customers automatically. Write a book, and royalties flow for decades. This isn't theory, it's how the wealthy actually build wealth. Consider the data. 1 in 3 solopreneurs now breaks $100,000 annually through leveraged digital offers. Teams with documented systems see 25% higher engagement rates. Businesses with clear processes grow faster and more profitably than those running on hustle alone. The evidence is overwhelming. Leverage isn't optional anymore. It's the price of admission to real freedom. The semi-passive spectrum. Not all work is created equal. Some activities trap you in the operator's chair forever. Others set you free. The secret is understanding where every task falls on what I call the semi-passive continuum. On the left side, you have active work, custom services, one-on-one consulting, bespoke solutions. Every dollar requires your direct involvement. Every client demands your personal attention. You're the bottleneck, the single point of failure, the reason the business can't run without you. In the middle, you find semi-passive work, productized services, group programs, templated solutions. You've standardized the delivery, but you're still involved in the process. There's some leverage here, but you haven't fully escaped the time for money trap. On the right side lies true passive income, digital products, royalties, automated systems, dividend-paying investments. You build once and sell forever. The marginal cost of serving the 100th customer is essentially zero. Your income decouples from your hours. The goal isn't to immediately jump from left to right. That's a recipe for failure. Instead, you migrate rightward over quarters, not days. You systematically kill or convert high-maintenance tasks. You ask 3 questions about everything you do. Can this be multiplied? Does this replace me? Can it buy more leverage? Taylor Swift understood this principle when she decided to re-record her early albums. Instead of accepting that she'd lost control of her masters, she leveraged her existing catalog in a new way. Same songs, new recordings, regained ownership. The result? She transformed past work into a passive royalty engine that pays her every time someone streams her music. That's catalog leverage, not more hours. The asymmetric advantage. Here's where most entrepreneurs make their fatal mistake. They build businesses with symmetric risk and reward. They work twice as hard to earn twice as much. They hire twice as many people to serve twice as many clients. Linear thinking in an exponential world. Smart entrepreneurs seek asymmetric upside, limited downside with uncapped potential returns. They favor models where the cost to serve additional customers approaches zero. They bundle distribution channels to compound their reach without proportional effort increases. Digital products are the ultimate asymmetric play. Your downside is capped at the cost of creation, maybe a few hundred hours and some software subscriptions. Your upside is unlimited. Whether you sell 1 copy or 1 million, the marginal cost stays essentially the same. MrBeast exemplifies this principle perfectly. Each video he creates becomes a perpetual revenue generator. One piece of content produces views and income for years. But here's the genius. He reinvests those profits into higher production values, which generate higher reach, which produces more revenue. It's a pure leverage loop where past success funds future success. The compound effect is staggering. His early videos might have cost $1,000 to produce and generated $2,000 in revenue. Today, he spends $1 million on a single video that generates $5 million in return. Same creator, same platform, exponentially different leverage. The distribution multiplier. Creating great assets is only half the equation. The other half is distribution, getting your work in front of people who will pay for it. And here's where most creators sabotage their own leverage. They chase every platform, spread their efforts thin, and wonder why nothing gains traction. They confuse activity with progress, posting everywhere but building nowhere. They're digital nomads without a home base. The leverage laws demand a different approach, depth over breadth. 1 core channel mastered beats 10 channels dabbled in. When you focus your distribution efforts, compound effects emerge. Your content starts ranking higher. Algorithms favor your consistency. Audiences begin to expect and anticipate your work. But here's the critical insight. You must own your distribution, not just rent it. Social media platforms are rented land. The landlord can change the rules anytime. Email lists are owned real estate. When you control the channel, you control the leverage. The smartest creators build hybrid distribution systems. They use platforms to discover new audiences, but they immediately capture those audiences into owned channels. They post on YouTube, but drive viewers to their email list. They share on social media, but funnel followers to their website. They rent for reach, but own for revenue. The compound trap. Now, let me destroy 3 dangerous myths that keep entrepreneurs trapped in low-leverage thinking. Myth 1. Passive income means zero work. This is the laziness delusion that destroys more dreams than any external obstacle. True passive income requires heavy front-loading and light ongoing maintenance. You work intensely up front to create systems that work for you later. It's not about avoiding work. It's about making your work compound. Myth 2. Higher prices require higher complexity. This is the feature creep fallacy that turns simple, profitable products into complex, margin-killing monsters. Value clarity wins, not feature bloat. Simple products can command premium prices when they deliver clear outcomes. Proof comes from results, not features. Myth 3. More platforms equal more sales. This is the distribution delusion that spreads your efforts so thin that nothing reaches critical mass. One core channel optimized beats 10 channels neglected. Depth compounds, breadth diffuses, focus creates leverage, scattered attention destroys it. Each of these myths leads to the same outcome. You work harder, but earn less per hour. You build complicated systems that require constant maintenance. You become the bottleneck in your own business. The leverage audit. Here's how you start installing leverage as your operating system. Take 20 minutes and audit your current work through the leverage lens. List every task you performed last week. Rate each one on a scale of 1 to 5 based on its scalability potential. 1 means it requires your direct involvement every time, like custom consulting calls. 5 means it can serve unlimited customers without additional effort, like digital downloads. Be ruthless with the ones. Kill them or convert them into higher leverage alternatives. The 2s and 3s need automation or productization. The 4s and 5s deserve your full attention and investment. Now pick one replicable asset and one scalable channel. Maybe it's a template pack distributed through email marketing. Maybe it's a mini course sold through a simple website. The key is singular focus. One asset, one channel, one clear call to action. Set your reinvestment rate now before you earn your first dollar. Automatically transfer 30 to 50% of profits to what I call future cash, money earmarked for distribution, tools, and help. This isn't optional. It's the fuel that powers your leverage engine. Review quarterly, but don't tinker daily. Leverage requires patience. Systems need time to compound. Resist the urge to constantly optimize. Sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing. The replication engine. The most powerful form of leverage is replication, creating once and selling forever. But replication requires a different mindset than most entrepreneurs possess. Instead of customizing everything for each client, you standardize solutions that work for many. Instead of building complex systems that require your constant involvement, you create simple processes that run automatically. Instead of chasing every opportunity, you focus on the few that multiply your impact. Batch creation becomes your secret weapon. Instead of writing 1 email at a time, you write 10 and schedule them to drip out over weeks. Instead of creating content daily, you produce a month's worth in a single focused session. Instead of handling customer service requests individually, you create FAQ resources that answer common questions automatically. The fortune truly is in the follow-up sequences. Most entrepreneurs send 1 email and wonder why people don't buy. Smart entrepreneurs create automated sequences that nurture prospects over weeks and months. They understand that trust builds slowly but compounds powerfully. The platform paradox. Here's the paradox every modern entrepreneur faces. Platforms provide massive reach but zero control. Algorithms can amplify your message to millions or bury it completely. Policy changes can destroy your business overnight. Platform dependence is the enemy of true leverage. The solution isn't to avoid platforms, it's to use them strategically while building your own assets. Capture email addresses from every platform interaction. Mirror your content on your own website. Diversify your discovery channels so no single algorithm controls your fate. Think of platforms as highways that bring traffic to your house. You don't own the highway, but you own the destination. The goal is to get people off the highway and into your owned ecosystem where you control the experience and the economics. Quarterly platform health checks become essential. Which channels are growing? Which are declining? Where are you most vulnerable? Where should you double down? Leverage requires constant vigilance against platform risk. The multiplication mindset. The entrepreneurs who master leverage think differently about everything. They see multiplication opportunities where others see addition problems. They invest in systems where others invest in tasks. They build assets where others build activities. When faced with a repetitive task, they ask, how can I systematize this? When considering a new project, they ask, will this scale? When evaluating expenses, they ask, does this buy me more leverage? This mindset shift is profound. You stop being a doer and start being a builder. You stop trading time for money and start creating assets that generate money. You stop being the business and start owning the business. The results speak for themselves. Entrepreneurs with leverage work fewer hours but earn more money. They take vacations without income interruption. They build businesses that can be sold, licensed, or delegated. They achieve the ultimate goal, time sovereignty. But leverage is just the foundation. Once you understand how to multiply your efforts, you need to know what to build first. You need a systematic approach to creating your initial asset, something small enough to ship quickly, but valuable enough to generate real revenue. The next chapter reveals the secret to building what I call the minimum asset, the smallest possible creation that reliably throws off cash. You'll discover why starting small is the fastest path to big results, and how to avoid the perfectionism trap that kills more dreams than any external obstacle. Chapter 3: Minimum Asset. The entrepreneur stared at his whiteboard, covered in elaborate flowcharts, feature lists, and integration diagrams. 6 months of planning, dozens of wireframes, a business plan that could choke a horse. Zero revenue. Meanwhile, his competitor launched a simple PDF checklist, charged $27 for it, and made $3,000 in the first week. What's the difference between these two approaches? One entrepreneur was building a monument to his own perfectionism. The other understood a fundamental truth that separates winners from wannabes. The smallest thing that reliably throws off cash beats the biggest thing that never ships. This is the power of what I call the minimum asset, and it's about to change everything you think you know about building passive income. The perfectionism prison. Most entrepreneurs are trapped in a prison of their own making. They believe bigger products equal bigger profits. They think complexity commands premium pricing. They assume customers want more features, more modules, more everything. They're wrong on all counts. Here's what actually happens when you overbuild. Support costs explode. Maintenance becomes a nightmare. Customers get overwhelmed and confused. Refund rates skyrocket. You spend more time explaining your product than selling it. The brutal truth is that buyers want outcomes, not features. They want their problem solved quickly and clearly. They don't care about your elaborate architecture or your impressive feature set. They care about results. Value density beats feature count every single time. A simple solution that delivers a clear outcome will outsell a complex system that promises everything but delivers confusion. This isn't opinion, it's market reality backed by decades of data. Consider the most successful digital products of the last decade. They're not the most complex or feature-rich. They're the ones that solve one problem exceptionally well. Instagram started as a simple photo filter app. Twitter limited messages to 140 characters. Zoom focused on making video calls that actually worked. Simplicity isn't a constraint, it's a competitive advantage. The speed advantage. Speed to proof unlocks everything else. Your first sale validates the model. It proves people will pay for what you're offering. It transforms you from someone with an idea into someone with a business. But more importantly, that first sale creates momentum. Confidence fuels consistent creation. Cash funds your flywheel. Proof attracts partners. Success breeds more success. The entrepreneurs who win understand this. The first dollar is infinitely more valuable than the perfect product. Because once you have that first sale, you have data. You know what works. You can iterate based on real feedback instead of imaginary assumptions. Small scope minimizes risk in ways most people don't appreciate. When your build cost is low and your timeline is short, your payback period shrinks dramatically. You can afford to be wrong because the cost of being wrong is minimal. You can test ideas quickly and cheaply instead of betting everything on one massive launch. Think about it mathematically. If you spend $500 and 2 weeks building a simple digital product, you only need a few sales to break even. If you spend $50,000 and 6 months building a complex platform, you need hundreds of sales just to recover your investment. Which scenario gives you more room for error? The minimum asset approach also creates psychological advantages. When you ship something small and see it work, you build confidence in the process. When you ship something big and it fails, you question everything. Success builds on success, but failure can paralyze. The economics of small. Let me introduce you to the unit economics that govern every successful digital business. These aren't complex formulas. They're simple ratios that determine whether your asset makes money or loses it. Lifetime value, LTV, is how much a customer pays you over their entire relationship with your business. Customer acquisition cost, CAC, is how much you spend to get that customer. Contribution margin is what's left after you subtract direct costs from revenue. Refund rate is the percentage of customers who ask for their money back. Here's the magic formula. If your LTV is higher than your CAC and your contribution margin is above 70%, you have a money printing machine. If not, you have an expensive hobby. The minimum asset approach optimizes for these metrics from day one. When you keep your product simple, your support costs stay low. When you focus on one clear outcome, your refund rates drop. When you price for value instead of cost plus, your margins soar. Payback period becomes your North Star metric. This is how long it takes to recover your investment in building the asset. Take your total build cost and divide it by your monthly net cash flow. If the answer is more than 3 months, you need to either cut scope or raise prices. Most entrepreneurs ignore this calculation and wonder why they're always broke. They build elaborate products that take years to pay for themselves. They optimize for features instead of cash flow. They confuse revenue with profit. Smart entrepreneurs track payback period religiously. They aim for break-even in 90 days or less. They understand that fast payback enables rapid reinvestment, which accelerates the entire flywheel. The Promise Proof Path Framework. Here's how you design a minimum asset that actually works. It starts with 3 elements: promise, proof, and path. Your promise is a concrete outcome with a time bound. Not improve your marketing, but generate 10 qualified leads in 30 days. Not better productivity, but save 2 hours per day on email management. Specificity sells. Vagueness repels. Your proof is one piece of credible evidence that your promise is achievable. A case study, a testimonial, a demonstration. You don't need overwhelming evidence, you need believable evidence. One strong proof point beats 10 weak ones. Your path is the step-by-step process that gets customers from where they are to where they want to be. Keep it linear. Keep it simple. 3 to 5 steps maximum. If you need more steps, you're solving too big a problem. This framework forces clarity. It prevents scope creep. It ensures your asset has a clear value proposition that customers can understand in seconds, not minutes. Most failed digital products lack one or more of these elements. They make vague promises that could mean anything. They provide no proof that their method works. They offer confusing paths that overwhelm instead of guide. The Promise Proof Path framework eliminates these failure modes. It creates assets that sell themselves because the value is obvious and the outcome is clear. The margin imperative. Pricing isn't about covering costs. It's about creating leverage. When you price for 70% gross margins or higher, you create room for reinvestment, marketing, and growth. When you price for lower margins, you trap yourself in a volume game you can't win. High margins also signal value. Customers associate price with quality. A $27 product feels more valuable than a $7 product, even if the content is identical. This isn't manipulation, it's psychology. But here's the deeper insight. High margins enable high leverage activities. When you make $70 on a $100 sale instead of $10, you can afford to spend money on distribution. You can invest in better tools. You can hire help. You can reinvest in creating better assets. Low margins force you into a scarcity mindset. You can't afford to experiment. You can't invest in growth. You become trapped in a cycle of cost cutting that ultimately destroys value. The minimum asset approach makes high margins easier to achieve. When your costs are low and your value is clear, you can price based on outcomes instead of inputs. You can charge for the result, not the effort. Start organic if you don't know your customer acquisition cost yet. Build an email list. Create content that attracts your ideal customers. Sell through direct outreach and word of mouth. Once you understand your conversion rates and customer behavior, you can layer in paid advertising. The iteration engine. Version 1 ships. Version 1.1 fixes friction. Version 1.2 adds one meaningful improvement. This is the iteration cycle that turns minimum assets into maximum revenue. Most entrepreneurs get this backwards. They try to build the perfect product before they launch. They spend months adding features and polishing details. They launch once and expect perfection. Smart entrepreneurs launch imperfect products and improve them based on real feedback. They collect user notes and prioritize improvements by effort multiplied by impact. They kill features that don't move conversion rates. This approach has multiple advantages. You get to market faster. You learn what customers actually want instead of what you think they want. You build momentum through consistent improvement instead of waiting for one perfect moment. The key is disciplined iteration. Don't add features just because customers ask for them. Add features that increase conversion, reduce support burden, or enable higher pricing. Everything else is distraction. Track your metrics religiously. Conversion rates, refund rates, support ticket volume, customer satisfaction scores. Let data guide your decisions, not opinions or assumptions. The template advantage. Here's a secret that most course creators miss. Templates convert better than theory alone. People want done-for-you solutions, not more information. They want to copy what works, not figure it out from scratch. When you include templates, checklists, scripts, or other practical tools, your perceived value skyrockets. Customers can implement immediately instead of spending hours translating concepts into action. This is why software companies include starter templates, why design agencies provide brand guidelines, why consultants create frameworks. Templates bridge the gap between knowledge and implementation. But here's the leverage insight. Templates also reduce your support burden. When customers have clear examples to follow, they ask fewer questions. When they can copy proven formats, they make fewer mistakes. Templates don't just increase value, they decrease maintenance. Limit your delivery formats to reduce complexity. Choose video or PDF, not both. Pick one platform for hosting, not 3. Every additional format multiplies your support requirements and dilutes your focus. Add one irresistible bonus, but avoid bonus bloat. A single high-value bonus can double your conversion rate. 5 mediocre bonuses will confuse customers and increase refunds. Quality over quantity applies to bonuses just as much as core content. The launch reality. Here's what actually happens when you launch a minimum asset correctly. In the first 30 days, you'll likely see 10 to 30 sales if you have any audience at all. Your refund rate should stay below 5% if your promise matches your delivery. You should break even within 90 days if your margins are healthy. Your first affiliate request will come from someone who bought and loved your product. Your email list will grow to 300 plus subscribers as word spreads. You'll have installed the reinvestment habit that powers long-term growth. In months 2 and 3, momentum builds. You'll see 30 to 100 sales as your content marketing compounds. Repeat buyers will emerge as you build trust through consistent value delivery. Your customer acquisition cost will become clear, enabling paid advertising experiments. The best case scenario is a breakout asset that generates $3,000 to $10,000 per month at 70% plus margins. Partnerships will drive 30 to 50% of sales as other creators promote your work. You'll work less than 3 hours per week on maintenance while the asset runs itself. But even the good scenario changes everything. One asset generating $100, $300 per month proves the model works. It provides cash for reinvestment. It builds confidence for creating the next asset. It starts the flywheel that eventually generates real wealth. The common traps. Scope creep is the silent killer of minimum assets. You start with a simple idea and gradually add features, modules, and complexity. Before you know it, your minimum asset has become a maximum headache. The fix is ruthless enforcement of the one promise rule. If a feature doesn't directly contribute to your core promise, cut it. If it can't be templatized, it doesn't belong in version 1. If it requires custom support, save it for version 2. Low margins sabotage everything else. When you price too low or let costs creep up, you can't reinvest in growth. You become trapped in a volume game where you need thousands of sales to generate meaningful income. The fix is simple, but not easy. Raise prices or trim costs. Remove features that add support burden without adding value. Switch platforms if fees are eating your margins. Price for value, not cost recovery. The worst trap is launching to crickets. You build something amazing and nobody buys. Your ego gets crushed. Your confidence evaporates. You question everything. The fix starts before you build anything. Warm up your email list with valuable content. Partner with one micro-influencer for cross-promotion. Add deadline-driven bonuses to create urgency. But keep scarcity ethical. Real deadlines, not fake countdown timers. The compound effect. The minimum asset isn't just about making money, it's about building momentum. Each successful launch makes the next one easier. Each satisfied customer becomes a potential affiliate. Each asset creates optionality for the next. You're not just building products, you're building a system for identifying problems, creating solutions, and delivering value at scale. A system that gets more efficient with each iteration. The entrepreneurs who master this approach don't just create one successful asset, they create asset-generating machines. They develop instincts for what works. They build audiences that trust their recommendations. They create flywheels that compound over time. But the minimum asset is just the beginning. Once you have cash flowing from your first creation, you need to turn that trickle into a stream. You need to understand how profits can fund promotion, how promotion can grow audiences, and how audiences can buy more assets in an endless cycle of growth. The next chapter reveals the secret architecture that transforms one-time sales into perpetual motion machines. You'll discover why the most successful entrepreneurs never stop at one asset and how they engineer systems that make each success fund the next one automatically. Chapter 4: Flywheel Growth. The entrepreneur celebrated his first $1,000 month with an expensive dinner and a new laptop. The next month, he made $800. The month after that, $400. By month 4, he was back to zero, wondering what went wrong. His competitor made $1,000 in month 1, then reinvested $400 of it into advertising and content creation. Month 2 brought $1,600. Month 3 hit $2,500. By month 6, he was generating $8,000 monthly while working fewer hours than when he started. Same starting point, same market, completely different outcomes. The difference wasn't talent, luck, or timing. It was understanding a principle that separates temporary winners from permanent wealth builders, the power of the flywheel. And once you grasp this concept, you'll never look at business growth the same way again. The momentum trap. Most entrepreneurs treat success like a lottery ticket. They launch a product, celebrate the initial sales, then spend the profits on lifestyle upgrades. New car, better office, fancy tools they don't need. They mistake a good month for permanent success. Here's what they don't realize. Wins fade without a system. Launch spikes crash back to baseline. The excitement wears off. Attention wanders to the next shiny opportunity. Without a mechanism to turn profits into bigger profits, you're stuck in an endless cycle of starting over. This is the momentum trap that catches 90% of entrepreneurs. They generate initial success but can't sustain it. They confuse activity with progress, effort with results. They work harder but don't work systematically. The entrepreneurs who escape this trap understand something profound. Growth isn't about working more. It's about making your work compound. They build systems that turn today's profits into tomorrow's advantages. They create what engineers call a flywheel, a mechanism that stores energy and releases it with increasing force. In business, a flywheel is a self-reinforcing loop where each cycle makes the next cycle easier and more powerful. Money funds promotion. Promotion grows audience. Audience buys assets. Assets generate more money. The loop accelerates with each rotation until growth becomes automatic. But here's the secret most people miss. Flywheels require discipline to start and patience to compound. The first few rotations feel slow and inefficient. The temptation to spend profits on immediate gratification is overwhelming. Most entrepreneurs give up before the flywheel reaches critical mass. The compound engine. Warren Buffett understood flywheels before the term became popular in business circles. For decades, he reinvested dividends instead of spending them. Each dollar earned generated more dollars, which generated even more dollars. The compound effect turned modest initial investments into billions. But Buffett's genius wasn't just in understanding compound interest, it was in understanding compound systems. His insurance companies generated float, money he could invest while waiting to pay claims. The investment returns funded more insurance acquisitions, which generated more float, which enabled bigger investments. A perfect flywheel that made him the world's most successful investor. MrBeast applied the same principle to content creation. Instead of pocketing YouTube revenue, he reinvested everything into bigger, better videos. Higher production values attracted larger audiences. Larger audiences generated more revenue. More revenue funded even higher production values. Each video became a stepping stone to the next level. The pattern is universal. Reinvestment compounds because each cycle increases both asset quality and distribution reach. Your first asset might reach 1,000 people and generate $1,000. Your second asset, funded by the first, might reach 5,000 people and generate $5,000. Your third asset could reach 25,000 people and generate $25,000. Same effort, exponential results. This is why flywheels beat linear plans every time. Linear thinking says, work twice as hard, earn twice as much. Flywheel thinking says, reinvest systematically, earn exponentially more. Linear growth is addition. Flywheel growth is multiplication. The discipline paradox. Here's where most entrepreneurs sabotage their own success. They reinvest randomly instead of systematically. They spend profits on whatever seems urgent or exciting. They lack the discipline to feed the flywheel consistently. The solution is what I call reinvestment rate discipline. You pick a percentage, say 40%, and automatically transfer that amount from every payment into a separate future cash account. This money has one purpose: funding growth, not lifestyle, not emergencies, not impulse purchases, growth. This approach solves multiple problems simultaneously. It prevents lifestyle creep from consuming your profits. It ensures consistent reinvestment regardless of your mood or circumstances. It creates a forcing function that makes growth automatic instead of optional. The percentage matters less than the consistency. Some entrepreneurs start with 30%, others with 50%. The key is picking a number you can sustain and sticking to it religiously. You can adjust the percentage later, but you must establish the habit first. Most people resist this discipline because it feels like deprivation. They want to enjoy their success immediately. They've worked hard and deserve rewards. This thinking is exactly what keeps them trapped in the momentum trap. Smart entrepreneurs understand delayed gratification as a wealth-building tool. They know that every dollar reinvested today becomes multiple dollars tomorrow. They treat their future cash account like a high-yield investment that compounds monthly instead of annually. The math is compelling. If you reinvest 40% of a $1,000 month, you have $400 to fund growth. If that investment generates a 50% return, easily achievable with good content marketing, you've added $200 to next month's revenue. Compound that over 12 months, and your $1,000 monthly business becomes a $5,000 monthly business. The allocation strategy. Once you've committed to systematic reinvestment, you need an allocation strategy. Random spending wastes money. Strategic allocation multiplies it. A simple framework works best: 50% for audience growth, 30% for asset upgrades, 20% for tools and systems. Audience growth includes content creation, advertising, partnerships, and anything that expands your reach. Asset upgrades include improving existing products, creating new ones, and enhancing customer experience. Tools and systems include software, automation, and anything that increases efficiency. These percentages aren't sacred, but they reflect proven priorities. Audience growth gets the biggest allocation because it has the highest leverage. A larger audience makes everything else more effective. Better tools are nice, but they don't matter if nobody knows you exist. Review your allocations quarterly, not monthly. Flywheels need time to build momentum. Constant tinkering disrupts the compound effect. Set your strategy, execute consistently, then evaluate results after enough time has passed to see real patterns. Track simple metrics: subscriber growth, revenue growth, profit margins, and time spent on maintenance. These 4 numbers tell you everything you need to know about flywheel health. If subscribers and revenue are growing while margins stay high and maintenance stays low, your flywheel is working. The diversification decision. Once your first income stream reaches $2,000 monthly, you face a critical decision: double down or diversify. Most entrepreneurs choose wrong. The diversification myth says you should spread risk by creating multiple income streams immediately. This sounds logical, but ignores the power of focus. When you split attention between multiple projects, none reaches critical mass. You become a serial starter instead of a systematic builder. The smarter approach is sequential diversification. Focus intensely on one stream until it works, then add a second stream that's uncorrelated with the first. If your first stream depends on social media algorithms, make your second stream email-based. If your first stream is product sales, make your second stream subscription revenue. Low correlation is crucial because it reduces overall volatility. When one stream dips, the other might spike. When algorithms change, email lists remain stable. When product sales slow, subscription revenue continues. Diversification without correlation is just complexity without benefit. The timing matters enormously. Add the second stream too early and you'll sabotage the first. Add it too late and you'll miss compound opportunities. The sweet spot is when your first stream generates enough cash flow to fund the second without starving itself. Warren Buffett exemplified this approach. He focused on insurance until it generated massive float, then diversified into other businesses that benefited from that float. Each new investment was funded by previous successes, creating a portfolio that compounded faster than any individual holding. The boredom advantage. Here's the counterintuitive truth about flywheels. They become boring. The excitement of launching fades into the routine of systematic execution. Content creation becomes scheduled. Reinvestment becomes automatic. Growth becomes predictable. Most entrepreneurs interpret boredom as a sign they're doing something wrong. They crave the adrenaline rush of new projects and fresh challenges. They abandon working systems to chase exciting opportunities. This is a catastrophic mistake. Boredom is actually a competitive advantage. It means your system is working so well that it doesn't require constant attention. It means you've achieved what most entrepreneurs never reach: sustainable, systematic growth. Boredom becomes a moat because your competitors can't stick with boring systems long enough to see results. They get distracted by new tactics and shiny objects. They restart instead of compound. They confuse motion with progress. The entrepreneurs who embrace boredom build unstoppable businesses. They understand that repetition compounds output per input. They know that consistency beats intensity over long time horizons. They treat systematic execution as a skill worth mastering. This doesn't mean you can't innovate or experiment. It means you do so within the framework of a proven system. You test new content formats while maintaining your publishing schedule. You try new marketing channels while protecting your core audience. You evolve without abandoning what works. The maintenance ritual. Flywheels aren't set-and-forget systems. They require light but consistent maintenance to prevent decay and maximize performance. The key is creating rituals that catch problems early without consuming excessive time. Quarterly pruning becomes essential. Rank your assets by revenue and maintenance requirements. Sunset the bottom 10% that consume time without generating meaningful returns. Refresh the top 20% with updated content, improved designs, or enhanced functionality. Double down on your number one performer with additional promotion and optimization. This ritual prevents asset decay while focusing resources on winners. Dead assets drag down overall performance. Neglected winners lose momentum. Regular pruning keeps your portfolio healthy and growing. Monthly reviews track flywheel health without micromanaging daily fluctuations. Look at subscriber growth, revenue trends, profit margins, and time allocation. Are you moving in the right direction? Are your systems working efficiently? Do you need to adjust your reinvestment strategy? Weekly execution focuses on the activities that feed the flywheel: content creation, audience engagement, product improvement, system optimization. These aren't glamorous tasks, but they're the engine that powers everything else. The maintenance ritual also includes naming your rules and following them mechanically. 40% future cash, 1 new asset per quarter, weekly content, monthly reviews, quarterly pruning. Clear rules eliminate decision fatigue and ensure consistent execution. The acceleration phase. When your flywheel reaches critical mass, something magical happens. Growth accelerates without proportional increases in effort. Revenue persists during vacations. Partnerships and opportunities come to you instead of requiring outreach. Your business starts working for you instead of the other way around. The signs are unmistakable: 25% month-over-month growth for multiple cycles, self-funded launches that don't require external capital, gross margins above 70% with maintenance below 3 hours per week, inbound partnership requests and licensing opportunities. This is when most entrepreneurs make their second critical mistake. They assume the flywheel will maintain itself indefinitely. They reduce reinvestment too quickly. They take their foot off the gas just when momentum is building. The smarter approach is gradual optimization. Reduce your reinvestment rate slowly as the flywheel proves its sustainability. Maybe drop from 40 to 30% after 6 months of consistent growth, then to 20% after another 6 months, but never eliminate reinvestment entirely. The goal isn't to stop feeding the flywheel, it's to optimize the feeding schedule. A mature flywheel needs less fuel to maintain momentum, but it still needs fuel. The entrepreneurs who understand this build businesses that compound for decades, not just quarters. The system advantage. The flywheel approach creates advantages that extend far beyond revenue growth. It builds systematic thinking skills that apply to every aspect of business. It develops patience and discipline that compound over time. It creates optionality that opens doors to opportunities you can't imagine today. When you master flywheels, you stop being a tactical entrepreneur and become a strategic one. You think in systems instead of tasks. You optimize for compound effects instead of immediate results. You build assets that appreciate instead of activities that depreciate. This mindset shift is profound and permanent. Once you see how reinvestment compounds, you can't unsee it. Once you experience the power of systematic execution, you can't return to random hustle. Once you build a flywheel that works, you understand how to build others. But the flywheel is just the engine. To maximize its power, you need to understand how to create content that compounds like capital, building libraries that work for years instead of posts that disappear in days. You need to master the art of turning your expertise into equity that pays dividends long after the work is done. The next chapter reveals the hidden architecture of content that compounds and why treating your content like equity instead of expenses changes everything about how you create and distribute your work. Chapter 5: Content Equity. Two creators published their first blog post on the same day. Both wrote about productivity tips. Both got 1,000 views. Both celebrated their viral success. 1 year later, the first creator had published 365 posts, accumulated 50,000 total views, and made $200. The second creator had published 12 posts, accumulated 500,000 views, and made $50,000. What's the difference between content that disappears and content that compounds? Between posts that consume your time and pieces that pay you for years? The answer lies in understanding something most creators never grasp: the difference between content as expense and content as equity. Most people treat content like a daily chore, something to check off their list before moving on to the next task. But the creators who build real wealth treat content like stock investments, carefully crafting pieces that appreciate over time and generate returns long after the initial work is done. The appreciation game. Here's what most content creators get catastrophically wrong. They optimize for immediate metrics instead of long-term value. They chase likes, shares, and comments while ignoring the only metric that actually matters: how much money their content generates over its lifetime. This is the difference between content as expense and content as equity. Expenses drain your resources and disappear. Equity appreciates over time and generates ongoing returns. When you create content that ranks in search engines, gets recommended by algorithms, and converts visitors into customers month after month, you're building equity that compounds. Tim Ferriss understood this principle when he wrote The 4-Hour Workweek in 2007. That single piece of content continues generating book royalties, speaking opportunities, podcast downloads, and business deals 17 years later. One creation, decades of returns. That's content equity in action. The math is compelling when you think about it correctly. A blog post that takes 8 hours to write and generates $100 per month for 3 years produces $3,600 in total value, a 4,500% return on your time investment. Compare that to a social media post that takes 30 minutes to create and generates zero long-term value. But here's the insight most creators miss. Content equity doesn't happen by accident. It requires strategic thinking about what problems you solve, how you solve them, and where you publish the solutions. It demands a shift from reactive posting to proactive library building. The creators who master this approach don't just build audiences, they build assets. Their content libraries become revenue-generating machines that work while they sleep, travel, or focus on other projects. Each piece reinforces the others, creating a compound effect that makes the whole greater than the sum of its parts. The evergreen advantage. The secret to content equity lies in understanding the difference between evergreen content and trending content. Trending content captures attention for days or weeks, then disappears into the digital void. Evergreen content solves timeless problems and generates value for years. Most creators chase trends because they provide immediate gratification. A trending topic might generate thousands of views in the first week, but those views evaporate quickly, leaving you back at zero with nothing to show for your effort except vanity metrics. Evergreen content works differently. It might start slowly, generating only hundreds of views in the first month, but it builds momentum over time as search engines index it, other creators link to it, and readers bookmark it for future reference. After 12 months, that evergreen piece might be generating more traffic than 10 trending posts combined. The compound effect becomes exponential when you build a library of evergreen pieces. Each new piece benefits from the authority and backlinks of previous pieces. Search engines start viewing you as an expert in your niche. Your content begins ranking higher for competitive keywords. Your audience grows organically without constant promotion. This is why 70% of small businesses with documented content processes grow faster and more profitably than those without systems. They're not just creating content, they're building content equity that appreciates over time. The key is solving durable problems that don't change with trends or technology. How to write compelling headlines, how to negotiate better deals, how to manage time effectively, These problems existed 20 years ago and will exist 20 years from now. Content that solves them becomes evergreen by default. The distribution dilemma. Creating great content is only half the battle. The other half is distribution, getting your content in front of people who will value it. And here's where most creators make a fatal mistake. They build their entire strategy on rented land. Social media platforms are rented land. You don't own your followers, your reach, or your relationship with your audience. The platform controls everything. Algorithm changes can destroy your reach overnight. Policy updates can delete your account without warning. Platform shutdowns can erase years of work instantly. This is platform risk, and it's the single biggest threat to content equity. When you depend entirely on external platforms for distribution, you're building a house on someone else's foundation. They can demolish it anytime they want, for any reason they choose. The solution is owning your distribution through email lists and websites. Email lists are digital real estate you control completely. No algorithm determines who sees your messages. No platform can delete your relationship with subscribers. No policy change can eliminate your ability to communicate with your audience. Smart creators use a hybrid approach. They rent platforms for discovery, but own channels for relationship building. They post on social media to attract new audiences, but immediately funnel those audiences to own channels. They use platforms as highways that bring traffic to their house, not as the house itself. This approach provides insurance against platform risk while maximizing reach. When TikTok gets banned or Instagram changes its algorithm, creators with owned distribution channels survive and thrive. Those without owned channels disappear along with their platforms. The data supports this strategy overwhelmingly. Email marketing consistently delivers higher ROI than social media marketing. Email subscribers convert to customers at rates 10 to 50 times higher than social media followers. Email lists appreciate over time, while social media followings depreciate due to algorithm changes. The pillar strategy. Building content equity requires strategic thinking about what to create and when to create it. Random posting leads to random results. Systematic content creation leads to systematic wealth building. The pillar strategy solves this problem by focusing your efforts on high-value content that serves multiple purposes. Instead of creating dozens of small pieces, you create fewer large pieces that can be repurposed into multiple formats and distributed across multiple channels. A pillar piece is comprehensive content that thoroughly solves one significant problem for your target audience. It might be a 3,000-word blog post, a 30-minute video, or a detailed case study. The key is depth over breadth. You want to become the definitive resource for that specific problem. Each pillar piece becomes the center of a content ecosystem. You can extract quotes for social media posts, create email newsletters based on key points, develop short-form videos highlighting specific sections, and design infographics summarizing main concepts. One pillar piece can generate 10 to 20 derivative pieces across multiple platforms. This approach maximizes your content ROI while minimizing your workload. Instead of creating new content every day, you create one pillar piece per month and spend the rest of your time repurposing and promoting it. Quality over quantity becomes your competitive advantage. The pillar strategy also improves your search engine rankings because you're creating authoritative content that other creators want to link to. Comprehensive resources attract backlinks naturally. Backlinks improve your domain authority. Higher domain authority leads to better rankings for all your content. Tim Ferriss exemplifies this approach perfectly. His blog posts are comprehensive resources that continue attracting readers and generating business opportunities years after publication. Each post becomes a pillar that supports his entire content ecosystem, from podcast interviews to book deals to speaking engagements. The automation threshold. Content equity reaches its full potential when you cross the automation threshold, the point where your content generates revenue without ongoing manual intervention. This is where content truly becomes passive income instead of active work. The automation threshold requires three components: automated lead capture, automated nurturing sequences, and automated sales processes. When someone discovers your content, they should be able to join your email list, receive valuable follow-up content, and purchase your products without any manual involvement from you. Lead magnets are the gateway to automation. These are valuable resources you offer in exchange for email addresses, checklists, templates, mini courses, or exclusive content. The key is making them irresistible to your target audience while being directly related to your paid offerings. Welcome sequences nurture new subscribers automatically through a series of pre-written emails that build trust, demonstrate value, and introduce your products. These sequences can run for weeks or months, gradually moving subscribers from awareness to consideration to purchase. Sales funnels complete the automation by presenting offers at strategic points in the customer journey. When someone downloads your lead magnet, they might receive an immediate offer for a low-priced product. When they purchase that product, they might receive an offer for a higher-priced service. The entire process runs automatically. This automation creates true passive income because your content works 24/7 without your involvement. A blog post you wrote 6 months ago can attract a visitor today, capture their email address, nurture them through your sequence, and generate a sale while you're sleeping. The compound effect becomes extraordinary when you have multiple pieces of content feeding the same automated system. Each new piece increases your total traffic, which increases your email subscribers, which increases your sales. The whole system grows stronger with each addition. The refresh ritual. Content equity requires maintenance to preserve its value over time. Information becomes outdated, links break, competitors create better resources. Without regular maintenance, even the best content eventually loses its effectiveness. The refresh ritual solves this problem through quarterly content audits that identify opportunities for improvement. You review your top-performing pieces and update them with new information, better examples, and improved calls to action. You also identify underperforming pieces that should be merged, redirected, or deleted. This maintenance approach follows the 80-20 principle. 20% of your content probably generates 80% of your results. Focus your refresh efforts on that top 20% to maximize your return on investment. Update statistics, add new case studies, improve headlines, and optimize for current search trends. The refresh ritual also includes interlinking your content to create a web of related resources. When someone reads one piece, they should naturally discover other relevant pieces in your library. This internal linking improves search engine rankings while increasing the time visitors spend on your site. Successful content creators treat their libraries like investment portfolios that require periodic rebalancing. They sunset content that no longer serves their audience, double down on content that performs well, and continuously optimize for better results. This systematic approach to content maintenance ensures your equity continues appreciating over time instead of depreciating due to neglect. It's the difference between building a library that pays you for decades versus creating content that becomes worthless after a few months. The myth destruction. Let me destroy 3 dangerous myths that prevent creators from building real content equity. Myth 1. You must post daily or die. This is the hamster wheel fallacy that keeps creators trapped in endless content production without building lasting value. Quality outranks frequency for compound growth. One exceptional piece per month beats 30 mediocre pieces. Depth creates backlinks and authority. Noise creates churn and confusion. Myth 2. Viral content is the goal. This is the lottery ticket mentality that makes creators chase unpredictable spikes instead of building predictable systems. Consistent 2 to 5% conversion rates beat viral hits that don't convert. Micro-niche topics often convert better than broad spectacle because they attract more qualified audiences. Myth 3. Email marketing is dead. This is perhaps the most dangerous myth because it prevents creators from building own distribution channels. Email remains the highest converting marketing channel across virtually every industry. Inboxes outlast feeds. Lists monetize with minimal friction. Email subscribers become customers at rates that dwarf social media followers. These myths keep creators focused on vanity metrics instead of value creation. They optimize for attention instead of conversion. They build on rented land instead of owned real estate. The creators who reject these myths and focus on content equity build sustainable businesses that compound over time. The compound vision. When you master content equity, something remarkable happens. Your business starts working for you instead of the other way around. Content you created months ago continues generating leads and sales. Your email list grows automatically as search engines and recommendations drive traffic to your lead magnets. Your revenue becomes predictable because your content library creates consistent results. The best creators reach a point where they publish once and the system multiplies their effort across dozens of channels and formats. They create pillar content that generates derivative pieces for months. They build email sequences that nurture subscribers automatically. They develop sales funnels that convert visitors without manual intervention. This is the ultimate goal of content equity, creating a system that generates increasing returns with decreasing effort. Your early content funds the creation of better content. Better content attracts larger audiences. Larger audiences generate more revenue. More revenue enables even better content creation. The flywheel accelerates until growth becomes automatic. But content equity is just one piece of the passive income puzzle. To build truly sustainable wealth, you need to understand how to create predictable, recurring revenue that smooths out the volatility of one-time sales and creates the foundation for long-term financial freedom. The next chapter reveals the gravitational force that pulls customers back month after month, creating the kind of predictable cash flow that transforms businesses from volatile ventures into wealth-building machines. Chapter 6: Subscription Gravity. The entrepreneur launched his course with a $997 price tag and celebrated when 100 people bought it. $99,700 in revenue felt like hitting the jackpot, but by month 3, the celebration was over. No recurring income, no predictable cash flow, just the pressure to launch something new or watch his revenue flatline. His competitor took a different approach. She priced her membership at $97 per month and started with just 50 members. Month 1, $4,850. Month 2, $7,760 as she added 30 more members. Month 3, $11,640. By month 12, she had 400 members generating $38,800 monthly, and the cash kept flowing whether she launched anything new or not. Same expertise, same market, completely different business models. One built a revenue spike, the other built a revenue machine. The difference lies in understanding a force so powerful that once you harness it, your business becomes nearly impossible to kill. Subscription gravity. But this isn't just about charging monthly fees. It's about creating an invisible force that pulls customers back, month after month, year after year. The predictability premium. Most entrepreneurs are addicted to the adrenaline rush of launches, the countdown timers, the affiliate promotions, the spike in sales that makes them feel like they've made it. But launches are cocaine for business owners, an intense high followed by an inevitable crash. Subscription revenue is different. It's the steady heartbeat that keeps your business alive when everything else goes wrong. When algorithms change, your subscribers remain. When competitors launch, your monthly revenue continues. When you take a vacation, the money still flows. This predictability creates a psychological shift that most entrepreneurs underestimate. When you know you'll generate $10,000 next month, regardless of what you do this month, you make different decisions. Calmer decisions, strategic decisions. You stop chasing every opportunity and start building for the long term. The math is compelling when you understand lifetime value. A customer who pays $97 once generates $97 in lifetime value. A customer who pays $97 monthly for 2 years generates $2,328 in lifetime value, 24 times more revenue from the same person. Even if you charge half as much for the subscription, you still generate 12 times more value per customer. But here's the insight most entrepreneurs miss. Subscription revenue doesn't just stabilize your cash flow, it raises your business valuation. Investors pay 3 to 10 times annual revenue for subscription businesses versus 1 to 3 times for one-time sales businesses. Recurring revenue is predictable revenue, and predictable revenue is valuable revenue. The subscription model also creates a compounding effect that one-time sales can't match. Each month, you add new subscribers while retaining existing ones. Your revenue base grows cumulatively instead of resetting to zero. Month 1 might generate $5,000. Month 12 might generate $50,000. Same effort, exponential results. The retention revolution. Here's where most subscription businesses fail. They obsess over acquisition while ignoring retention. They spend thousands acquiring new customers, then watch them cancel within weeks. It's like filling a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. The economics are brutal when you get this wrong. If your average customer pays $97 monthly but cancels after 2 months, your lifetime value is $194. If your acquisition cost is $100, you're making $94 per customer, barely enough to cover support and payment processing. You're trapped in a hamster wheel where you need constant growth just to break even. But when you fix retention, everything changes. If that same customer stays for 12 months instead of 2, your lifetime value jumps to $164. Now, you can afford to spend $500 or more on acquisition while maintaining healthy margins. You can invest in better content, superior support, and enhanced features that further improve retention. The key insight is that retention compounds. A customer who stays for month 3 is more likely to stay for month 6. A customer who stays for month 6 is more likely to stay for year 2. Early retention predicts long-term retention, which means your first 30 days determine your lifetime value. This is why smart subscription businesses front-load value delivery. They don't spread benefits evenly across 12 months. They pack as much value as possible into the first month. They want customers to experience immediate wins that justify the ongoing investment. Ben Thompson of Stratechery exemplifies this approach perfectly. His daily newsletter provides such concentrated value that subscribers can't imagine starting their day without it. He's created a habit that becomes part of their routine. Canceling would feel like losing a valuable daily ritual, not just ending a subscription. The habit architecture. The most successful subscriptions don't just provide value, they create habits. They become part of their customers' routines, workflows, and identities. When canceling feels like breaking a beneficial habit, churn rates plummet. Habit formation requires 3 elements: a trigger, a routine, and a reward. The trigger is what reminds customers to engage with your subscription. The routine is what they do when triggered. The reward is the benefit they receive from completing the routine. Smart subscription businesses engineer these elements deliberately. They send emails at consistent times to create triggers. They design simple, repeatable actions as routines. They provide immediate, tangible benefits as rewards. Over time, these elements combine to create automatic behaviors that resist cancellation. The switching costs also compound over time. As customers accumulate templates, save preferences, build histories, and integrate your service into their workflows, leaving becomes increasingly difficult. It's not just about losing future value, it's about losing past investments. Community amplifies this effect when done correctly. When customers form relationships with other members, canceling means losing social connections, not just service access. The subscription becomes a membership in a group they value, not just access to content they consume. But community is optional leverage, not a requirement. Many successful subscriptions provide pure utility without any social elements. The key is understanding what creates switching costs for your specific audience and engineering those elements into your service. The value delivery engine. The biggest mistake subscription creators make is thinking they need to provide massive amounts of content. They create elaborate member portals with dozens of courses, hundreds of templates, and endless resources. Then they wonder why members feel overwhelmed and cancel. The reality is counterintuitive. Members pay for outcomes, not megabytes. They want repeated utility, not content floods. They prefer one valuable thing delivered consistently over 10 valuable things delivered sporadically. This is why the most successful subscriptions focus on one core promise delivered monthly. Maybe it's 5 new email templates. Maybe it's a curated industry report. Maybe it's a live Q&A session. The specific deliverable matters less than the consistency and relevance. The key is designing what I call the core loop, the monthly cycle that delivers your promised value. This loop should be simple enough to execute reliably, valuable enough to justify the price, and specific enough to measure success. Your core loop becomes the heartbeat of your subscription. Members know what to expect and when to expect it. You know exactly what to deliver and how much effort it requires. Predictability benefits everyone while reducing the cognitive load of constant innovation. The most elegant subscriptions feel effortless to both creator and consumer. The creator has a clear production schedule that doesn't require constant creativity. The consumer has a clear value proposition that doesn't require constant evaluation. Simplicity scales, complexity collapses. The onboarding imperative. Your first 72 hours determine whether a new subscriber becomes a long-term customer or a quick cancellation. This window is so critical that optimizing it can double your lifetime value without changing anything else about your business. Most subscription businesses treat onboarding as an afterthought. They send a generic welcome email, grant access to their member portal, and hope for the best. Then they wonder why 30% of subscribers cancel before their first renewal. Smart businesses design onboarding sequences that guide new members to their first win as quickly as possible. They don't overwhelm with options. They prescribe specific actions that lead to immediate value. They celebrate small victories and build momentum toward larger outcomes. The goal is reaching what I call time to first value, the moment when a new subscriber experiences a meaningful benefit from your service. This might happen when they download their first template, complete their first lesson, or implement their first strategy. The faster you deliver this moment, the higher your retention rates. Measuring time to first value in hours, not days, separates winning subscriptions from losing ones. If it takes a week for new members to experience value, you're competing against their natural tendency to forget why they subscribed. If it takes an hour, you're building on their initial enthusiasm and motivation. The onboarding sequence should also establish usage patterns that predict long-term retention. If members who download 3 templates in their first week have 80% annual retention, while members who download 0 have 20% retention, your onboarding should focus obsessively on getting everyone to download 3 templates. The pricing psychology. Subscription pricing is more art than science, but there are proven principles that dramatically impact both acquisition and retention. The most important insight is that price anchoring works in reverse for subscriptions. Higher prices often improve retention by attracting more committed customers. When you price your subscription at $27 monthly, you attract bargain hunters who cancel at the first sign of inconvenience. When you price it at $97 monthly, you attract serious customers who expect value and stick around to find it. The higher price creates a psychological commitment that improves retention. Annual plans amplify this effect while improving your cash flow. When someone pays $970 upfront for a year instead of $97 monthly, they're making a significant commitment that virtually guarantees 12 months of retention. You get immediate cash to reinvest while they get a discount that feels like a win. The discount should be meaningful but not excessive. 2 months free, equivalent to a 17% discount, provides enough incentive to encourage annual payments without devaluing your service. Larger discounts can actually hurt retention by making the service feel cheap. Tier complexity kills conversions and confuses customers. Start with 1 tier and add a premium option only after you have 200+ members and clear data about what additional features they want. Most successful subscriptions have 2 tiers maximum: a core option that serves 80% of customers, and a premium option for the 20% who need more. The premium tier should offer clear, valuable extras that justify the higher price. More templates, direct access to you, priority support, or exclusive content. Avoid feature bloat that complicates delivery without adding meaningful value. The content sustainability model. The subscription content treadmill destroys more creators than any external competition. They start with enthusiasm, creating elaborate monthly deliverables that require dozens of hours to produce. Within 6 months, they're burned out, cutting corners, and watching quality decline as members notice and cancel. Sustainable subscriptions are built on templates and systems, not constant creativity. You create frameworks that can be updated monthly without starting from scratch. You develop processes that maintain quality while minimizing effort. You design content that compounds rather than depletes your energy. The most successful subscription creators batch their content creation into quarterly sprints. They spend 1 month creating 3 months' worth of deliverables, then spend 2 months on other business activities while their content delivers automatically. This approach prevents burnout while maintaining consistency. Guest contributions can extend your content calendar without increasing your workload, but they require editorial guardrails to maintain quality and relevance. The key is providing clear briefs that ensure guest content serves your members' needs rather than the contributors' promotional goals. Rotating themes quarterly helps combat novelty decay, the tendency for members to lose interest in repetitive content. Quarter 1 might focus on strategy, Quarter 2 on tactics, Quarter 3 on case studies, Quarter 4 on planning. The rotation keeps content fresh while providing structure for creation. The churn prevention system. Churn is inevitable, but it's not unpredictable. Most cancellations follow patterns you can identify and interrupt with the right systems. The key is tracking early warning signals and intervening before members reach the cancellation decision. Week 4 and month 3 are critical churn points for most subscriptions. Week 4 is when the initial enthusiasm wears off and members evaluate whether they're getting ongoing value. Month 3 is when the novelty completely fades and members decide whether the subscription has become an essential part of their routine. Rescue sequences triggered before these critical points can dramatically reduce churn. A week 3 email asking, "How are you finding the membership so far?" opens dialogue with struggling members. A month 2 survey identifying specific challenges allows you to provide targeted support. The pause option is more powerful than most creators realize. When members want to cancel due to temporary circumstances, budget constraints, time limitations, life changes, offering a pause instead of cancellation often saves the relationship. They can reactivate when their situation improves rather than going through the acquisition process again. Exit surveys provide invaluable data about why members cancel and how you can improve retention. But the survey must be short, specific, and actionable. "Why are you canceling?" generates useless generic responses. "What specific outcome were you hoping to achieve that we didn't deliver?" generates insights you can act on. The gravity effect. When subscription gravity reaches critical mass, something remarkable happens. Your business becomes nearly impossible to kill. Members stick around for years, not months. Word-of-mouth referrals drive 20% or more of new acquisitions. Your monthly revenue becomes so predictable, you can plan major investments with confidence. The best subscription businesses achieve net negative churn. They lose some members, but expand revenue from existing members faster than they lose it from cancellations. This happens when you continuously add value that justifies price increases or tier upgrades. At this stage, your subscription becomes a platform for launching other products and services. Your members trust your recommendations and buy additional offerings at higher rates than cold audiences. Your subscription list becomes your most valuable business asset. But subscription gravity is just one force in the passive income universe. To build truly diversified wealth, you need to understand how to monetize your expertise in ways that don't require ongoing content creation or customer support. ways that turn your knowledge into assets that pay you every time someone uses them. The next chapter reveals the hidden world of royalty engines, where your intellectual property becomes a perpetual motion machine that generates income from usage rather than ownership. Chapter 7: Royalty Engine. George Lucas walked into the 20th Century Fox boardroom in 1976 with an unusual request. Instead of demanding a higher salary for directing Star Wars, he wanted something the executives considered worthless: merchandising and licensing rights. The studio executives laughed. Who would want toys from a space movie? They gladly gave Lucas the rights in exchange for a lower upfront fee. 47 years later, those worthless rights have generated over $12 billion in revenue. Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney for $4 billion in 2012, but he still earns royalties from products, games, and licensing deals created decades ago. One negotiation: lifetime income. This is the power of what I call the royalty engine, a system that pays you every time your intellectual property gets used, not just when you work. But most entrepreneurs never tap into this gold mine because they don't understand the hidden mechanics that turn creative work into perpetual paychecks. The usage economy. Most people think about income in terms of time traded for money. You work an hour, you get paid for an hour, you create a product, you sell it once. This linear thinking caps your earning potential at the number of hours you can physically work. Royalties operate on a completely different principle. They monetize usage, not creation. Every time someone streams a song, reads a book, uses a photo, or implements a framework, the creator gets paid. The same piece of intellectual property can generate thousands of separate payments over decades. This shift from ownership to usage is transforming entire industries. Software companies have moved from selling licenses to charging subscription fees. Musicians earn more from streaming royalties than album sales. Authors make more from Kindle Unlimited reads than traditional book purchases. The usage economy rewards creators who understand how to structure deals that pay them repeatedly. The mathematics are compelling when you think about scale. A photographer who sells a single image for $500 makes $500 once. A photographer who licenses that same image for $5 per use and gets 1,000 uses makes $5,000 from the identical work. Same creation effort, 10 times the revenue. But here's what most creators miss. Royalties aren't just about making more money from existing work. They're about creating optionality. When you own rights to intellectual property, you can license it in ways you never imagined when you created it. A business framework becomes a software tool. A book becomes a course. A design becomes a product line. The most successful creators build what I call royalty engines, systematic approaches to creating, protecting, and monetizing intellectual property that generates income long after the initial work is complete. The rights revolution. Understanding intellectual property rights is like understanding the rules of money. Ignore them at your own peril. Every piece of creative work you produce has inherent value that can be licensed, sold, or leveraged. But most creators accidentally give away this value because they don't understand how rights work. Rights have three critical dimensions: scope, term, and exclusivity. Scope defines what can be done with your work and where it can be used. Term specifies how long the rights last. Exclusivity determines whether you can license the same rights to multiple parties. When you understand these dimensions, you can structure deals that maximize your long-term income. Instead of selling all rights forever for a one-time payment, you can license specific rights for limited terms while retaining ownership. Instead of granting exclusive worldwide rights, you can license different territories to different partners. J.K. Rowling exemplifies strategic rights management. She retained control over Harry Potter licensing across films, theme parks, games, and merchandise. Each licensing deal generates ongoing royalties while she maintains ownership of the underlying intellectual property. One magical world, dozens of revenue streams. The key insight is that rights are assets that appreciate over time when managed correctly. A framework that generates $1,000 in licensing fees today might generate $10,000 annually in 5 years as your reputation grows and demand increases, but only if you retain the rights to benefit from that appreciation. Most creators make the mistake of selling rights too cheaply early in their careers when they need immediate cash. They trade future wealth for present survival. Smart creators find ways to maintain ownership while accessing distribution and marketing resources through strategic partnerships. The distribution dilemma. Creating valuable intellectual property is only half the equation. The other half is getting it in front of people who will pay to use it. This is where most creators get stuck. They have great content but no distribution system. Traditional publishers, record labels, and licensing agencies promise to solve this problem, but they extract enormous value in exchange for their services. A book publisher might offer a 10 to 15% royalty rate while keeping 85 to 90% of the revenue. A music label might advance money against future royalties, but recoup their investment plus expenses before the artist sees additional payments. The digital revolution has created new opportunities for creators to control their own distribution while accessing global markets. Platforms like Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, Shutterstock, and various software marketplaces allow creators to reach millions of potential customers without traditional intermediaries. But platform dependence creates its own risks. Algorithm changes can destroy your discoverability overnight. Policy updates can eliminate your revenue stream without warning. Platform shutdowns can erase years of work instantly. The smartest creators use a hybrid approach. They leverage platforms for reach while building direct relationships with customers. They use marketplaces to discover new audiences, but capture those audiences into owned channels. They rent distribution for growth, but own relationships for security. This approach provides the best of both worlds. Platform scale with relationship control. When a platform changes its terms or shuts down, creators with owned audiences can migrate to new platforms or sell directly. Those without owned audiences disappear along with their platforms. The catalog strategy. Taylor Swift's decision to re-record her early albums wasn't just about artistic control, it was about economic leverage. By creating new masters of her existing songs, she could generate royalties from the new versions while her old label continued earning from the originals. This strategy illustrates a crucial principle. Intellectual property catalogs behave according to power law distributions. A few titles generate most of the revenue, while many titles generate modest returns. The key is creating enough titles to increase your chances of hitting a breakout success. Professional songwriters understand this principle intuitively. They don't try to write one perfect song. They write hundreds of songs, knowing that a few will become hits that pay for all the rest. The same approach works for any type of intellectual property. A business consultant might create 50 frameworks, knowing that 5 will become popular enough to license widely. A photographer might shoot thousands of images, knowing that dozens will generate significant stock photo revenue. A software developer might build multiple plugins, knowing that one might become an industry standard. The catalog approach requires patience and persistence, but it creates anti-fragile income streams. When one title stops performing, others continue generating revenue. When market conditions change, different titles become relevant. When new distribution channels emerge, your entire catalog benefits. Catalog management becomes a critical skill as your library grows. You need systems to track contracts, monitor performance, and optimize distribution. You need processes to refresh successful titles and retire underperformers. You need strategies to bundle related works and create premium versions. The contract fundamentals. Most creators approach licensing deals with the enthusiasm of a lottery winner and the business acumen of a child. They focus on the advance or the royalty rate while ignoring terms that determine their long-term wealth. Advances are not free money, they're loans against future royalties. If your work doesn't generate enough royalties to repay the advance, you keep the money but lose future earning potential. If your work becomes hugely successful, the advance might represent a tiny fraction of what you could have earned. Recoupment clauses determine how advances are repaid and what expenses can be deducted from your royalties. Unscrupulous partners can inflate expenses to delay or eliminate royalty payments. Always cap recoupable expenses and require detailed accounting. Reversion clauses are your escape hatch from bad deals. They specify conditions under which rights return to you, typically when sales fall below a certain threshold or after a specific time period. Without reversion clauses, you can be locked into underperforming deals forever. Territory and media rights determine where and how your work can be used. Granting worldwide rights in all media forever might seem like a good deal today, but it prevents you from capitalizing on new markets and technologies that emerge later. The most important clause in any licensing agreement is often the shortest. Who owns derivative rights? If someone creates a movie based on your book, a software tool based on your framework, or a product line based on your design, do you participate in that success? Derivative rights can be worth more than the original work. The platform playbook. Building a royalty engine requires strategic thinking about which platforms to use and how to use them. Different platforms serve different purposes and require different approaches. Marketplaces like Amazon, Shutterstock, and various app stores provide massive reach but low margins. They're excellent for discovery and volume, but terrible for building direct relationships. Use them to test market demand and attract initial customers, but don't depend on them for long-term wealth building. Direct sales through your own website provide higher margins and customer control, but require more marketing effort. They're ideal for premium products and established audiences, but challenging for new creators without existing platforms. Aggregators and distributors sit between marketplaces and direct sales. They provide broader distribution than you could achieve alone while offering better terms than most platforms. They're particularly valuable for creators who want to focus on creation rather than marketing. The key is understanding the economics of each channel and optimizing your strategy accordingly. High-volume, low-margin products work well on marketplaces. Premium, high-margin products work better through direct sales. Established works with proven demand can command better terms from distributors. Most successful creators use all three approaches strategically. They test new concepts on marketplaces, build audiences through direct sales, and scale successful products through distributors. Each channel serves a specific purpose in the overall strategy. The automation advantage. The ultimate goal of any royalty engine is automation, creating systems that generate income without ongoing effort. This requires careful attention to contract terms, distribution channels, and catalog management. Automated royalty collection ensures you get paid without chasing down partners. Most legitimate platforms and distributors provide monthly or quarterly statements with automatic payments. Avoid partners who require manual invoicing or have histories of payment delays. Automated reporting helps you track performance across multiple channels and identify optimization opportunities. Simple spreadsheets work for small catalogs, but dedicated software becomes essential as your library grows. Automated marketing through SEO-optimized landing pages, email sequences, and partner promotions reduces the ongoing effort required to maintain sales. The best royalty engines market themselves through word of mouth, search rankings, and platform recommendations. The compound effect becomes extraordinary when automation reaches critical mass. Your catalog markets itself, sells itself, and pays you automatically. New works benefit from the authority and audience built by previous works. Success funds more creation, which generates more success. The multiplication effect. When royalty engines reach maturity, they create multiplication effects that extend far beyond direct licensing revenue. Your intellectual property becomes a platform for speaking engagements, consulting opportunities, and strategic partnerships. A business framework that generates modest licensing fees might lead to high-paying consulting contracts. A book that earns small royalties might create opportunities for lucrative speaking engagements. A software tool that produces steady income might attract acquisition offers worth millions. The key is understanding that intellectual property creates optionality, the right but not the obligation to pursue various opportunities. Each piece of intellectual property you create and protect increases your options while providing downside protection through ongoing royalties. This optionality becomes more valuable over time as your reputation grows and your catalog expands. Early works that seemed insignificant might become valuable as your expertise becomes recognized. Niche products might find new markets as industries evolve. The most successful creators think of their intellectual property as a portfolio of options with unlimited upside and limited downside. They create systematically, protect strategically, and monetize patiently. They understand that today's modest royalty check might be tomorrow's retirement fund. But royalty engines, while powerful, represent just one approach to building passive income. To create truly robust wealth, you need to understand how to combine entrepreneurial income streams with traditional investment approaches that provide stability and diversification. The next chapter reveals the foundational strategy that every wealth builder must master, an approach so simple that most entrepreneurs ignore it, yet so powerful that it forms the bedrock of every major fortune. Chapter 8, Dividend Basics. Important note: this chapter contains general educational information about investing concepts and should not be considered personalized financial advice. Always consult with qualified financial professionals before making investment decisions. The entrepreneur had built a thriving digital business generating $15,000 monthly. But every night, he lay awake wondering, what happens if the algorithm changes? What if my platform disappears? What if I get sick and can't work? His anxiety wasn't irrational, it was intelligent. He'd built his entire financial future on assets that required his constant attention and depended on forces beyond his control. One policy change, one health crisis, one market shift could eliminate everything. Meanwhile, his neighbor, a quiet accountant who never talked about business, slept peacefully every night. Why? Because every month, without fail, checks arrived in his mailbox from companies he'd never worked for, in industries he'd never touched, generating income that required zero effort on his part. The entrepreneur had mastered the art of creating active income. The accountant had discovered something far more powerful, the ancient wealth-building secret that every fortune is built upon, yet most entrepreneurs completely ignore. The calm foundation. There's a reason why every major fortune in history, from the Rockefellers to Warren Buffett, is built on the same foundation. It's not because these wealthy families lack creativity or entrepreneurial spirit. It's because they understand something that most business builders miss. True wealth requires a calm foundation that generates income regardless of your health, energy, or market conditions. This foundation isn't glamorous. It doesn't provide the adrenaline rush of launching a new product or the satisfaction of building something from scratch. It's boring, predictable, and utterly reliable, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. When you have a stream of income that arrives every month without any effort on your part, income that actually grows over time, everything else in your business changes. You make different decisions. You take smarter risks. You sleep better at night. You stop chasing every opportunity because you're not desperate for the next paycheck. This psychological shift is profound and often underestimated. When your basic expenses are covered by passive income that requires no maintenance, no customers, and no content creation, you operate from a position of strength rather than desperation. You can afford to be patient with your business ventures because you're not betting your survival on their immediate success. The most successful entrepreneurs understand this principle intuitively. They build businesses aggressively while simultaneously building wealth conservatively. They take entrepreneurial risks with their time and energy while taking minimal risks with their long-term financial security. This dual approach creates what I call asymmetric confidence, the ability to pursue high-upside opportunities without fear of catastrophic downside. When your foundation is secure, you can afford to swing for the fences with your business ventures. The ownership advantage. Most people think about income in terms of working for money. Even successful entrepreneurs often fall into this trap. They build businesses that pay them well, but still require their active participation. They've created better jobs for themselves, not true wealth. Real wealth comes from owning pieces of businesses that generate profits whether you're involved or not. When you own shares in profitable companies, you participate in their success without contributing your time or energy. You become a silent partner in hundreds or thousands of businesses simultaneously. This is the power of dividend investing, owning shares in companies that regularly distribute portions of their profits to shareholders. Every quarter, these companies send you checks simply for being an owner. No work required, no customers to serve, no products to create, just ownership rewards for providing capital. Warren Buffett exemplifies this approach perfectly. While he's famous for his business acumen and investment skills, the majority of his wealth comes from owning shares in profitable companies that pay him dividends year after year. His Berkshire Hathaway receives billions in dividend payments annually from companies like Coca-Cola, Apple, and American Express. The beauty of this system is that it's completely scalable and requires minimal ongoing effort. Whether you own $1,000 or $1 million worth of dividend-paying stocks, the maintenance requirements are essentially the same. The companies handle all the operational complexity while you receive your proportional share of the profits. This approach also provides natural inflation protection. As companies grow their profits over time, they typically increase their dividend payments. Your income stream grows automatically without any additional effort on your part. Compare this to fixed income investments like bonds, where your purchasing power erodes over time due to inflation. The compound secret. Here's where most people get dividend investing completely wrong. They focus on current yield instead of long-term growth. They chase stocks paying 8% or 10% dividends today while ignoring companies that pay 2% but grow their dividends by 10% annually. This is the difference between yield and yield on cost, a concept that separates sophisticated investors from yield chasers. Yield is what you earn today based on today's stock price. Yield on cost is what you earn based on what you originally paid for the stock. Consider a company that pays a 3% dividend when you buy it for $100 per share. If that company increases its dividend by 8% annually for 10 years, your yield on cost becomes 6.5 cents, more than double the initial yield. If the stock price also appreciates, you're earning a high yield on your original investment while sitting on substantial capital gains. This is how patient investors build extraordinary wealth. They buy quality companies at reasonable prices and hold them for decades, allowing compound growth to work its magic. The dividends they receive in year 20 might represent 15% or 20% yields on their original investment, even though the stock only yielded 3% when they bought it. The key insight is that dividend growth compounds just like investment returns. A company that increases its dividend by 7% annually will double its payout every 10 years. If you reinvest those dividends to buy more shares, the compounding effect becomes exponential. This is why starting early matters so much with dividend investing. Time is the most powerful factor in the equation. A 25-year-old who invests $200 monthly in dividend growth stocks will likely have more dividend income at age 65 than a 45-year-old who invests $1,000 monthly starting at the same time. The automation imperative. The biggest mistake most people make with dividend investing is treating it like an active strategy. They research individual stocks, try to time the market, and constantly adjust their portfolios. This approach defeats the entire purpose of passive income and usually produces inferior results. The smartest approach is radical automation. You set up systematic monthly investments into a diversified portfolio of dividend-paying assets and let time do the heavy lifting. No market timing, no stock picking, no emotional decisions, just consistent, automated wealth building. Dollar cost averaging is the engine that makes this work. By investing the same amount every month, regardless of market conditions, You automatically buy more shares when prices are low and fewer shares when prices are high. This smooths out market volatility and reduces the impact of timing on your long-term returns. The psychological benefits of automation are as important as the financial benefits. When your investments happen automatically, you can't make emotional decisions that sabotage your long-term wealth. You can't panic sell during market downturns or get greedy during market bubbles. The system protects you from your own worst instincts. Most successful dividend investors check their portfolios monthly at most, and many check only quarterly or annually. They understand that frequent monitoring leads to frequent tinkering, which destroys long-term returns. They set up their systems and let them run for decades. This hands-off approach also frees up mental energy for other pursuits. Instead of constantly worrying about your investment portfolio, you can focus on building your business, developing your skills, or enjoying your life. The investments take care of themselves while you take care of everything else. The diversification defense. One of the biggest risks in dividend investing is concentration, putting too much money into too few companies or sectors. When you depend on a small number of dividend payments, you're vulnerable to company-specific problems or sector-wide downturns. The solution is systematic diversification across companies, sectors, and geographies. Instead of trying to pick individual winners, you spread your risk across hundreds or thousands of companies. When some companies cut their dividends, others increase theirs. When some sectors struggle, others thrive. Exchange-traded funds, ETFs, make this diversification simple and cost-effective. A single dividend-focused ETF might hold 200-plus companies across multiple sectors, providing instant diversification with minimal effort. You get professional management, automatic rebalancing, and broad exposure for a fraction of the cost of building a diversified portfolio yourself. The key is avoiding the temptation to chase high yields without considering sustainability. Companies paying 8% or 10% dividends often do so because their stock prices have fallen due to fundamental problems. These yield traps can destroy wealth when the companies eventually cut their dividends. Instead, focus on companies with sustainable payout ratios, typically paying out 40 to 60% of their earnings as dividends. This leaves room for dividend growth while providing a margin of safety during economic downturns. Companies that pay out 90% or more of their earnings have little room for growth and high risk of cuts. Sector diversification is equally important. Utility companies might provide steady dividends but limited growth. Technology companies might offer higher growth but more volatility. Real estate investment trusts, REITs, provide inflation protection but interest rate sensitivity. A balanced approach captures the benefits of each while minimizing the risks. The patience payoff. Dividend investing rewards patience like few other strategies. The longer you hold quality dividend growth stocks, the better your returns become. This is counterintuitive for most entrepreneurs who are used to seeing immediate results from their efforts. The magic happens in years 10 to 20 of a dividend investing program. Your yield on cost reaches levels that seem impossible based on current market yields. Your dividend income covers significant portions of your living expenses. Your portfolio becomes a wealth-generating machine that requires minimal maintenance. Warren Buffett's Coca-Cola investment illustrates this perfectly. Berkshire Hathaway bought Coca-Cola stock in the late 1980s for about $1.3 billion. Today, Coca-Cola pays Berkshire over $700 million annually in dividends, more than half of the original investment amount every single year. The yield on cost exceeds 50%, and the dividends continue growing. This level of success requires two things most people struggle with: patience and consistency. You must resist the urge to chase hot stocks or time the market. You must continue investing during market downturns when everything feels hopeless. You must trust the process even when progress seems slow. The entrepreneurs who master this approach often describe a moment when everything clicks, usually around year 7 to 10, when their dividend income reaches meaningful levels. Suddenly, they realize they've built a second income stream that requires no effort and provides increasing security. This realization changes how they approach their businesses. They become more selective about opportunities. They take bigger creative risks because their downside is protected. They make decisions based on long-term value rather than short-term cash flow needs. The integration strategy. The most successful entrepreneurs don't treat dividend investing as separate from their business activities. They integrate the two strategies to create synergistic wealth building. Profits from their businesses fund their dividend investments, while dividend income provides stability that enables bigger business risks. This integration creates a powerful feedback loop. Business success accelerates dividend investing through larger contributions. Dividend income reduces business pressure by covering basic expenses. The combination builds wealth faster than either strategy alone. The key is setting up automatic transfers from business accounts to investment accounts. When your business generates a profit, a predetermined percentage immediately flows into your dividend investment program. This prevents lifestyle inflation from consuming your business success while ensuring consistent wealth building. Many entrepreneurs use their dividend income to fund new business ventures or reinvest in existing ones. The passive income provides patient capital that doesn't require immediate returns. This patient capital often generates the best business returns because it's not desperate money seeking quick profits. The psychological benefits of this integration are profound. Knowing that your basic expenses are covered by dividend income allows you to pursue business opportunities with confidence rather than desperation. You can afford to be patient with business development because you're not dependent on immediate business income for survival. The yield trap minefield. Not all dividend-paying stocks are created equal. Some companies pay high dividends because they're in financial distress and trying to attract investors. These yield traps can destroy wealth when the companies eventually cut their dividends and their stock prices collapse. The warning signs are usually obvious if you know what to look for. Payout ratios above 80% indicate companies paying out most of their earnings with little room for growth. Declining revenues or profits suggest unsustainable business models. High debt levels create vulnerability during economic downturns. The safest approach is focusing on dividend aristocrats, companies that have increased their dividends for 25-plus consecutive years. These companies have proven their ability to grow dividends through multiple economic cycles. They typically have strong business models, conservative management, and sustainable competitive advantages. Dividend growth rate is often more important than current yield. A company yielding 2% but growing its dividend by 10% annually will provide better long-term returns than a company yielding 6% with no growth. The growing dividend compounds over time, while the static dividend loses purchasing power to inflation. Geographic diversification also matters in today's global economy. U.S. companies provide stability and growth, but international companies offer different economic exposures and often higher yields. A globally diversified dividend portfolio provides better risk-adjusted returns than a purely domestic approach. The maintenance minimalism. One of the greatest advantages of dividend investing is how little maintenance it requires once established. Unlike businesses that need constant attention or real estate that requires management, dividend portfolios can run themselves for years with minimal intervention. Annual reviews are usually sufficient for most dividend investors. You check dividend growth rates, payout ratios, and overall portfolio balance. You might replace companies that have cut dividends or add new positions to improve diversification. But these changes should be minimal and methodical, not reactive or emotional. The key is resisting the urge to constantly optimize or chase performance. Every trade has costs, commissions, taxes, and opportunity costs. Frequent trading usually reduces returns rather than improving them. The best dividend investors are often the most boring ones who buy quality companies and hold them for decades. Technology makes this maintenance even easier today. Most brokers offer automatic dividend reinvestment plans, DRIPs, that use dividend payments to buy additional shares automatically. This compounds your returns without any effort on your part and eliminates the temptation to spend dividend income instead of reinvesting it. The goal is building a portfolio that generates increasing income with decreasing effort over time. In the early years, you might spend a few hours annually managing your investments. In later years, you might spend a few hours every few years. Eventually, the portfolio becomes a wealth-generating machine that requires almost no attention. But dividend investing, while foundational, is just one piece of the passive income puzzle. To complete your transformation from operator to owner, you need to understand how to integrate all these strategies into a cohesive system that works automatically and compounds relentlessly. The final chapter reveals how to orchestrate everything you've learned into a 30-day action plan that transforms theory into reality and sets your passive income flywheel spinning from day one. Chapter 9. Go now. You've reached the end of the map. You understand the 7-move system that transforms operators into owners. You know how to build minimum viable assets, install flywheel growth, create content equity, harness subscription gravity, build royalty engines, and establish dividend foundations. But here's the brutal truth. Knowledge without action is worthless. The graveyard of entrepreneurship is filled with people who knew exactly what to do but never did it. They had perfect plans, detailed strategies, and comprehensive understanding. They also had zero results. You're standing at a crossroads. Down one path lies the comfortable familiarity of your current situation, trading time for money, chasing the next client, living project to project. Down the other path lies the uncertain territory of asset building, front-loading effort for back-loaded rewards, building systems that work without you. One path is safe and predictable. The other is risky and transformative. Choose wisely, because this decision will determine whether you're still hustling for dollars 5 years from now or collecting checks from assets you built today. The 7-move mastery. Let me crystallize everything you've learned into the essential system that separates wealth builders from wealth dreamers. This isn't theory anymore. It's your blueprint for the next 30 days. Move 1. Build a minimum viable asset with 70% or higher gross margins. Not a course empire, not a comprehensive solution, a simple, focused deliverable that solves one painful problem for one specific audience. Price it based on value, not cost. Ship it imperfect rather than perfect. Move 2. Attach distribution through email plus one primary channel. Own your list. Rent platforms for discovery, but capture audiences into own channels. Depth beats breadth every time. Master one channel before adding others. Move 3. Hit the automation threshold where payments, delivery, and follow-ups run without your involvement. If you have to manually process every sale, you haven't built passive income. You've built an expensive job. Automate everything that can be automated. Move 4. Install a fixed reinvestment rate between 30–50% of profits. Automate transfers to a future cash account before money hits your checking account. This isn't optional. It's the fuel that powers your flywheel. Lifestyle creep kills more dreams than market crashes. Move 5. Diversify into low-correlated income streams. Add subscriptions for stability, royalties for spikes, dividends for calm. But do this sequentially, not simultaneously. Focus until one stream works, then add the next. Move 6. Maintain quarterly with systematic pruning and refreshing. Sunset the bottom 10% of assets that consume time without generating meaningful returns. Refresh the top 20% with updated content and improved functionality. Double down on your number one performer. Move 7. Let compounding and boredom do the heavy lifting. Resist the urge to constantly optimize or chase new opportunities. Consistency beats intensity over long time horizons. Boredom is a moat that competitors can't cross. This system works because it's based on mathematical realities, not motivational fantasies. Each move builds on the previous one. Each success funds the next experiment. Each asset reduces your dependence on active income. The identity revolution. What you've learned isn't just about making money, it's about becoming a different type of person. You're upgrading from operator to owner, from effort seeker to leverage builder, from short-term hustler to compounding strategist. This identity shift creates calendar sovereignty. Instead of reacting to urgent demands, you design your weeks around deep work blocks. Instead of saying yes to every opportunity because you need the money, you say no to most opportunities because your base income covers your needs. Instead of living in constant firefighting mode, you operate from strategic calm. The psychological transformation is profound. When you know money will arrive next month, regardless of what you do this month, you make different decisions. Better decisions. You can afford to be patient with opportunities because you're not desperate for immediate income. You can invest in long-term strategies because your short-term survival isn't at stake. This shift also improves your relationships in ways you might not expect. When you're not constantly stressed about money, you're more present with family and friends. When your income is predictable, you can make and keep social commitments. When you have energy left after work, you can invest in the people who matter most. Money stress is relationship poison. It creates tension, arguments, and resentment that compound over time. Stable income eliminates this stress and replaces scarcity arguments with abundance conversations. Instead of fighting about expenses, you discuss investments. Instead of worrying about survival, you plan for growth. The capability expansion. Within 30 days of implementing this system, you'll achieve something that seemed impossible when you started: your first automated sale or dividend payment. This isn't just about the money, though the money matters. It's about proof that the machine works. That first automated dollar is infinitely more valuable than the 100th dollar you earn from active work. It proves you can build assets that generate income without your involvement. It validates the owner identity you're developing. It funds your next asset immediately through your reinvestment system. More importantly, you'll discover you can take time off without your income collapsing. Your systems run while you rest. Your assets work while you vacation. You return sharper and more creative, not behind and stressed. Guilt-free rest becomes strategic recovery instead of productivity loss. This capability expansion accelerates over time. Your second asset builds faster than your first because you've learned the process. Your third asset leverages the audience and authority built by your first two. Each success makes the next success more likely and less effortful. The compound effect becomes extraordinary when you have multiple assets working simultaneously. One asset's email list becomes another asset's customer base. One asset's content becomes another asset's lead magnet. One asset's profits fund another asset's creation. The whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. The habit architecture. Continuing to practice this system improves results while reducing effort, the opposite of most business activities. This happens because habits make gains automatic and systems remember what you forget. Standard operating procedures replace heroic effort. Instead of reinventing your process for each asset, you follow proven templates that work. Instead of making emotional decisions about reinvestment, you follow predetermined rules. Instead of constantly optimizing, you maintain quarterly and let compound effects accumulate. Each cycle shortens build time because you're not starting from scratch. Your second minimum viable asset takes half as long to create as your first. Your third takes half as long as your second. Learning compounds just like money. Portfolio effects emerge as your asset library grows. One winner pays for many experiments, so you can afford to test new ideas without risking your foundation. Optionality attracts serendipity. Opportunities come to you because you have assets that create visibility and credibility. Your downside shrinks while your upside expands. This is how wealth builders think differently from income earners. They understand that early assets fund later assets, creating an accelerating cycle of creation and cash flow. They play long games that compound over decades, not short games that reset every month. The Buffett Blueprint. Warren Buffett exemplifies everything this book teaches, but not in the way most people think. Yes, he's a brilliant investor, but his real genius lies in understanding systems that compound over time with minimal ongoing effort. Buffett didn't build his wealth through heroic spurts or brilliant market timing. He built it through patient, systematic reinvestment of returns over decades. He found businesses that generated cash, used that cash to buy more businesses that generated more cash, and repeated this process for 60 years. His approach was boring by design. He avoided complex strategies that required constant attention. He focused on simple businesses he could understand. He reinvested profits automatically rather than spending them on lifestyle upgrades. He let time and compound interest do the heavy lifting. The lesson isn't that you should become a stock picker, it's that you should become a system builder. Buffett built a system for turning money into more money with minimal ongoing effort. You're building a system for turning expertise into assets that generate money with minimal ongoing effort. Both approaches rely on the same principles: patience, discipline, systematic reinvestment, and letting compound effects accumulate over time. Both require resisting the urge to constantly optimize or chase new opportunities. Both reward boring consistency over exciting innovation. The difference is scale and timeline. Buffett had decades to build his system and billions to invest. You have months to build your system and hundreds or thousands to invest. But the principles are identical and the results are proportionally similar. The 72-hour ignition. Everything you've learned means nothing without action. Right now, while motivation is high and clarity is fresh, you need to begin. Not next week, not next month, now. Here's your 72-hour sprint to transform knowledge into momentum. Session 1 takes 90 minutes and happens today. Pick your niche and promise using the criteria you've learned. Narrow focus beats broad appeal. Painful problems beat nice-to-have solutions. Specific outcomes beat vague benefits. Outline your minimum viable asset using the Promise Proof Path framework. One promise, one piece of proof, one clear path. Write it down. Make it real. Session 2 takes 90 minutes and happens tomorrow. Build version 1 of your asset. Not the perfect version, the shippable version. Set up payments through a simple platform like Stripe or PayPal. Configure automatic delivery through email or a basic membership site. Test the entire process from purchase to delivery. Fix what's broken. Ship what works. Session 3 takes 90 minutes and happens the day after tomorrow. Write your 3-email welcome sequence that builds trust and introduces your offer. Publish your asset with a simple sales page that uses the Promise Proof Path framework. Announce it to your existing network, email list, social media, personal contacts. Ask for feedback. Collect money. Celebrate your first automated dollar. This sprint isn't about perfection. It's about momentum. Momentum compounds like money. The hardest part is starting. The second hardest part is continuing. The easiest part is succeeding once the flywheel reaches critical mass. Don't overthink this. Don't research more. Don't wait for better timing. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. The owner's oath. You stand at the threshold of transformation. Behind you lies the familiar territory of trading time for money, chasing clients, and living project to project. Ahead lies the uncertain but promising landscape of asset ownership, passive income, and time sovereignty. This isn't just about building a business. It's about reclaiming your life. It's about waking up to automated sales instead of urgent emails. It's about designing your days instead of reacting to demands. It's about building wealth that works for you instead of working for wealth that never comes. The choice is yours, but the window is closing. Every day you delay is a day of compound interest lost forever. Every week you procrastinate is a week your competitors get ahead. Every month you hesitate is a month you could have been building assets that pay you for years. Choose to be the owner today. Build once and sell forever. Buy back your time with systems that work without you. Create assets that appreciate while you sleep. Install flywheels that accelerate while you rest. The first dollar is always the hardest because it requires faith in a process you haven't proven yet. But once you earn that first automated dollar, the next 100 become inevitable. Once you build that first asset, the next 10 become easier. Once you install that first flywheel, the compound effects become unstoppable. Start now, so tomorrow can start paying you back. And the day after that. And the day after that. Again and again and again, for as long as you choose to let the systems run. Your future self is waiting. The assets are ready to be built. The income is ready to be automated. The freedom is ready to be claimed. The only question left is, will you go now or will you go later? The clock is ticking. The opportunity is here. The knowledge is yours. Go now. Build once. Sell forever. Your passive income empire starts today.